Good afternoon, good afternoon. Afternoon all. Although I don't think we've got anyone watching at the moment. Oh, well, never mind. But anyway, we'll say hello when more people do it. Like I say, it's not my usual time for streaming. Oh. But yes, good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to a Sunday Stroll. Although I think it's been a while since we've done a Sunday Stroll. So yeah, it's been quite a while since we've done one. But no, I'm back from Northampton, and so I thought, why not have a stroll down. Like I say, I've managed very gracefully to get through on the train strikes. Helen Wilkes, weather okay there? Yes, the weather is okay over here at the moment. Hang on, my screen is filthy. There we go. Helen Wilkes, oh, hang on. There we go. There we go. There we go. Yes, I hope that's all right. Helen Wilkes, yes, the weather is okay over here for the moment. Mithril, good afternoon to you. There we go. Oh. Sean O'Neilbird, good morning to you. Or not morning, afternoon. Afternoon. As the case is, good afternoon. Oh. Rude, good evening. Hello to you. Hello. Like I say, welcome to a Sunday Stroll. And oh boy, has it been interesting. Like I say, I've had a good weekend. Had a good wedding on Friday. Stayed in over the Saturday because of the train strike. Quite frankly, yeah, bit drafty. Like I say, I've been actually had a good night, as they say. So I had a bit of a thick head in the morning after, but all right. It was all right actually. Managed to sort it out. Oh, looks like the horses in the other field are having their runs. But yes, so I had that. I've had, as you can see, I had a haircut. So yeah, it is a bit drafty at the moment at FSM. But hello to you. We'll be looking back at these warm and dry October days in January. Indeed, it's going to be very, very, very interesting indeed. I think when sort of the weather starts to turn, because already we've had. Because I saw it was actually the first time I've actually ever seen Enough is Enough in action. They've actually had, I saw some stickers and someone handing out flyers, because obviously the 1st of October for Enough is Enough is sort of their big date. Is it a bit windy? Oh, like I said, this is the problem now. We're back in the windy season again. do too much about it. Like I say, sometimes I'm just going to accept that the wind is going to be there. I'll just have to speak a bit more. Oh, who was that as well? Someone asking a question. Phil, my view on Katang meeting the hedge funds certainly needs to be investigated. Oh, windy again, but yeah, certainly needs to be investigated. That's that with a shadow of a doubt. Just does sound like there's been some bit of a dodgy dealing going on by the sounds of it. So something that does need to be looked into. Whether it will or not, of course, that's another question. Like I say, we'll have to see what happens in sort of the medium term. But it's definitely something that could be, I think, quite a big issue. I think if it gets enough media attention. But then again, I'm not too. I wouldn't be too surprised if it doesn't get looked into, shall we say. Put a fur cover over the mic. Thing is, even when you put a fur cover over the mic, it can only do so much. Like I say, we've been down this road before. We've been down this road before many a time. Like I say, I need to find a mic that's compatible with my my phone, because I've actually bought one that was for it, and it didn't do it. It didn't work, unfortunately. Yeah, showing market sensitive info. If he has done, and that's the key thing, is we need to know more about the meeting. Because if he just had a party just to like celebrate his mini budget, then, well, okay, fine. But if he's gone and shared information at that party, that's where the investigation needs to find out. That's what it needs to find out, what he said, and if information, if any, that he's shared. So that's where we need to have the investigation. So, but if he has shared information, you are quite right. He will not only just lose his job, he'll lose his complete MP status. Which phone have I got? It's a Samsung Galaxy 9, I think, question mark. Didn't think he intended people to short against the pound. More likely he was arrogant and just stupid. Yeah. I think that is the case already. I mean, you saw it when it happened. You saw it when it happened. He was like, please don't bet against the pound. please don't bet against the pound. You know, and of course people are going to bet against the pound and short it. That's what most of these financial markets are do. You know. Shirley said what he said before. Well, that's it. If this party was afterwards, then, you know, it's still important. I think it still should be investigated. You know, just what went on and what was said. But it's at the end of the day, unfortunately, this is a case where, if you saw our recent video about Gordon Brown's you know, constitutional review, where he said, well, look, let's take that function and make it its own sort of unique, you know, governmental idea, then I think that would work. But I think if we need to sort of reform that, then there's a whole ton of stuff that needs reforming. Like I say, I'm looking forward to reading Gordon Brown's full constitutional review when it gets brought out. And like I say, the fantastic news, of course, was that PR got voted on at the Tory conference. So, that is good news. That is fantastic news, because there were so many people who said you'll never get more than 80 people to 80 like local Labour organisations to vote for it, and yet we've just had it voted through at a Labour conference. So, they won't be able to ignore it for long. They absolutely will not be able to ignore it for long, but we'll just have to see which direction it will go. Yeah, ignorance is no defence in the law for exactly. Yeah, trust us, throwing him under the bus. I did see reports that she'd apologised, and we have to put the apologies in massive quotation marks, because a lot of people said, "Oh, she's apologised for the mini budget." Yeah, she hasn't apologised. She apologised for the market's reaction to the mini budget, and said that she should have laid the groundwork for it more. Well, when you were announcing these, not only just the mini budget, but these like 4-day intensive policy blitz, this is what it was being sold as, laying the groundwork for what would be ultimately Friday's big, financial statement of the year. It was the fiscal event of the year it was billed as. So it just goes to show you, I think she's been completely caught on the hoof, essentially, for it. And she's desperately trying to make up any excuse she can to try and survive. Because there were already, if you saw this morning, Michael Gove has come out and said he won't vote for the mini budget. And when you've got a big name like Michael Gove coming out and saying, yeah, I'm not going to vote for the mini budget, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. And it's not just that he was complaining about, it was the 45% tax rate, the removal of the banker's bonus. How are you going to pay for all these tax cuts? Show us how you're going to do that. That's why very quickly you're going to see Katang pressured into releasing his medium-term growth plan, because this is how he's going to pay for it all. But even then, it still is very much based on borrowing, from what we can see. Oh, good morning to you. Oh, sorry, afternoon to you, not morning. It's just automatic. It's just automatic at the moment. Just, yeah, afternoon, good morning, whatever. Oh. Yeah, you are right. The growth plan is going to be the real shocker. You are right on that one, Phil. It will be. But we already know the UK's problems. I mean, if you remember, Michael Gove's own report on levelling up explained and said, this is why the UK has such problems. I mean, the answers are already there. They've already been told what the problems of the UK are by Michael Gove and his own levelling up report, if you remember when we covered that. And I will say it again, that report, the first 2 chapters are astounding. They're amazing to read, because it just goes to show you how bad the Tories have really been and what they've essentially allowed to happen since 2012. And it even went to said, look, if you seriously want to do this, you've got to spend, you've got to have the readies at the ready to spend. And of course, when you get to the financial stuff about spending and what they intend to spend, as people said, that had Rishi Sunak's fingerprints all over it. Cutting budget, slashing, we can't spend that, we can't do that. When the report had basically said, look, if you actually spend and address these problems, you come up with a good industrial plan, it's money well spent. So it's completely insane that they've known this. I mean, Liz Truss was in the cabinet when that was being written. So was so was Katang. So they know it's there. They know what the problems of the UK are. And there's a full report sitting, well, okay, this is how you need to address them. This is how you solve these problems. They're not interested in that. Never have been, which is part of the problem. And because it continues to be part of the problem, it's what we get up to. Oh. Well, I'll at least say this is quite a nice day, at least. Although, I don't know. I don't know about the clouds at the moment. It does look like it might rain any moment. But there we go. Anyway, hold on. What you're seeing there? What you're seeing there, Doctor? The lunar crypto crash of early May saw the Terra Luna crypto plummeting to an all-new low, crashing in hard terms of pricing, with its stable coin, Terra USD, losing its peg. So I'm guessing more problems in cryptocurrency, not surprising. Phil, Freeport's charter cities in environmental deregulation. You only didn't have the oh my on the end. But yeah, that's what's coming. Ultimately, I think these low tax regulation zones are essentially going to be sort of mini charter cities, what they can get away with at the moment in time, before probably later on just going to announce the full thing. So yeah, we'll have to see how the markets react, but they're not reacting very well. And as I said, a couple of days ago, when we went over the news piece from the Byline Times, where they're saying, where they had those economists saying, well, look at the market, look at how it's reacting, and you've got easily a housing crisis potentially on its way. And when most of the UK's most people in the UK's wealth is tied up in sort of property, that's where we get problems. That is where we get some serious economic problems if we see a housing crash. And I think that is what we have to be on the lookout for. I think sort of fluctuations in house prices. Is the market slowing down, or is it speeding up, or is it merely slowing to a crawl? That's what we have to sort of keep an eye on for the foreseeable future, at least. But it's, as the Chancellor said, he's not finished yet. Oh, we're back. We're back. A bit. For more, carefully planned, laid economic announcements. I'll tell you who was fun though, who we missed out on, because like I say, there was a lot of news last week and she didn't get mentioned a lot because really of what happened, although she got a bit of media attention. But Kemi Badenoch had been over in America recently, trying to, by the looks of it, at least try to signal that maybe the UK hadn't given up on its trade talks with the US, even though the US and even Liz Truss had clearly said, yeah, a trade deal's not happening anytime soon. She was out there over there at like an investment forum, trying to encourage investors to, well, invest in the UK. Almost immediately as she was doing that, the pound was essentially plummeting in complete free fall. So, yeah, not a good time to be trying to do that at all. When you're trying to convince people to invest in the UK and the pound is absolutely tanking. But one of the things that I sort of wanted to talk about today is, I think a lot of people, probably in the coming weeks, are going to sort of ask, well, how did we end up here? How did we reach a point where we've got so much, financial instability? You've got all these politicians who are putting forward these crazy, to quote one MP today, disconnected from reality, living in La La Land. So how did we get here? I think it's a fair question. I think a lot of people are going to be asking. And Brexit has a lot to do with it. But the story of how we got here doesn't start in 2016. It doesn't even start in 2015. To be honest, it starts way back with the coalition. Because it was a coalition government with the Lib Dems that allowed initially this faction, this right-wing libertarian faction, to start to throw their weight around. Because always remember, where did these claims of, well, if you don't give us a referendum, we'll join UKIP. That came from the coalition days. It didn't come after. It was very much based in the coalition days of, we want a referendum, a Brexit referendum, when it came into more lexicon of the British political life. So as they've pushed forward since then, they sort of used their power to start throwing their weight around. And even though there were just a small amount of them, they started to affect and started to push forward their radical, crazy idea. And it wasn't the MPs. It wasn't the MPs they were targeting. What they were targeting always was, first of all, they were targeting Conservative voters, because they know if they can't get them on board, well, there's no chance of at least passing any big bills or getting more of their kind onto the voting bloc. Then, of course, it was attracting back the UKIP majority. And I think everyone's seen the picture of the of sort of the woman, you know, walking the baby T-Rex, and then it eventually morphs into the woman being eaten by this giant T-Rex that she once had on her leash. And that's what happened. That these right-wing fanatics started off pressuring their party into something. But they didn't just pressure the party. It was a matter of bringing more people into the party from the UKIP faction to back up their votes, to shore them up. And they did that, of course, in 2016, where they got the Brexit vote. And of course, not only during that period, they were getting more and more people in, you know, securing their way in, locking in their power base, bringing more MPs to their side, and if they couldn't, well, they'd vote them in. And a lot of people have talked about it, how the Tory sort of voting base has sort of been radicalised towards this end. And we saw it in the most recent Tory leadership contest, how much they've been sort of radicalised in this crazy direction, where you had the event in Belfast. And I think it was like the first ever time Tory MPs had sort of gone to Belfast, at least, you know, prospective, you know, party members, because there is, as ever small it is, there are, of course, members out there, and this was their opportunity to ask questions, and, you know, we covered that live. What some of those questions were to sort of Liz Truss, and you could see just how radical they really were and how radical they've become. And of course, what do those radicals end up voting in? They end up voting in more radical MPs. And so, over time, we've ended up with the Conservative Party, or as Michael Gove put it this morning, that wasn't a Conservative budget. And I don't know how many times we've said it, but a lot of those, you know, MPs backing Brexit or backing this mini budget, which they're expected to vote on soon, have come out and said, yeah, this isn't Conservative. But then it hasn't been a Conservative party for quite some time. It's been very much a right-wing libertarian faction that has been running the country for quite some time and dominating the party, and now they're in power. You know, the ERG control the government. As we said before, 88% of our government is controlled now by ERG members. You have, you know, and people thought Boris Johnson was the most, you know, Brexity prime minister. But look who Liz Truss has brought in. You know, look who she's brought in. And she's brought in more of the crazy right-wing libertarian think tanks. So she's brought people in from the Taxpayers Alliance. She's brought people from the Institute of Economic Affairs. Again, think tanks that are completely astroturfed by, well, dark money that we just don't know where it comes from, and essentially just tries to influence MPs and especially Conservative MPs, and tries to sort of get into, the newspapers like the Daily Mail and affect their sort of Tory membership to pull them ever further to this right-wing libertarian point of view. And that's what's happened. So it is of no mistake that finally, of all people to realise this, it's Michael Gove. Coming out and saying this morning that, this isn't a Conservative budget. Who knew? Who knew for a brief second, maybe Michael Gove might be the one to, realise what's happened within the Conservative Party and maybe try and rid the party of this right-wing libertarian element. It's it's not beyond the realms of possibility. And of course, we've seen Jake Berry, the chief whip, the leader of the Northern Research Group, come out and say that if MPs don't vote for the mini budget, they'll have the whip removed from them. And it's been seen as a vote of no confidence. And a lot of those MPs that are against this budget are pretty sure they've got the numbers to turn it round. You've got another MP, Julian Smith. He tweeted out, I think it was today or may have been yesterday, he said, look, you can't be clapping for carers 1 month and then the next month start giving millionaires and all this, a massive tax break. It doesn't add up to the values and, idea you want to put forward across as the Conservative Party. But this may be an interesting point because, as always we've said, this part, the right wing of the party, this libertarian faction that has sprung up and taken hold of the party, is in fact still very, very small. And even though they may have the power now, the real question comes now: how many are really true believers of this credo, and how many might be ready to jump ship? Because what's going on here, and this mini budget vote that is happening, could very well be what's happened to Theresa May. Oh, hang on, I can't see the chat. Are we? Oh, there we go. Yeah, exactly, Alex. If it doesn't pass, it will be seen as a vote of no confidence in the government. And that could be, it could be exactly what happened to Theresa May. If you remember the Theresa May days, desperately trying to sort of pass her Brexit bill. And of course, the Brexiteers could have had Brexit, but it wasn't Brexity enough. So they stood against it. And eventually, after a third time, she couldn't pass it, so she had to step down because it was a core moment of her, of her plan, of her election, of her manifesto. And yet, none of these things that Liz Truss have been put forward in her manifesto, which is giving a lot of these, Conservative MPs, especially, as I've said before, a lot of the MPs, these red wall MPs, are not buying this budget at all. So we could see this faction, this right-wing libertarian faction that has now taken power, get completely wiped out. And Liz Truss could end up being the shortest serving Prime Minister, not in just recent political history, but in all UK political history. Which just says just how bad it is. Oh, hello, afternoon, Cathal G. Good morning to you. Good morning, good afternoon to you. Oh, might be a bit windy. There we go. Yeah. Who's going to roast Liz? That's the thing. I think you could very, very easily see a lot of Tory MPs flipping out at this conference, which we haven't seen yet. Because I think, shall we say, they're more busy in the back rooms plotting rather than taking to the cameras. But as I said a lot, I think the fact that Michael Gove's come out and said, yeah, this budget isn't conservative, says a lot. It says an awful lot that in the background, things are not as Del Boy used to say, things are not cushy, as they say in the Tory party. And in probably the next sort of week or so, I think we will see this full-blown rebellion that I've been talking about, I think, will take place. And when that happens, then it's it's open season. I think, as someone else has pointed out, you've got a petition calling on a general election to happen. Well, I think if they get rid of Truss, I struggle to see how you could not have a general election when you've had that many prime ministers in such short a time. You've got to have a general election, and I think the Tories get absolutely wiped out. You've seen all the polls recently how Labour is, essentially leading. And you look at the poll lead that they've had in some of the polls, and it's not just one poll, it's numerous polls putting Labour at significant leads, which is fantastic. And like I say, because of the Labour conference, I think announcements like, Great British Energy, which I think is a fantastic thing to put forward to, have a nationalised company that is going to focus specifically on green energy, while at the same time investing heavily ourselves into green energy. I think it's a fantastic plan, a fantastic idea, and I certainly look forward to reading the manifesto. But if I were Labour now, I'd be having serious conversations about how prepared are we to fight a general election. Because, there were a lot of talk about, Liz Truss might not make it till, Christmas. I think at the rate things are going, she might not even end up surviving the month. You know? Just imagine that for a second, that a new Tory MP becoming Prime Minister had maybe like an hour's honeymoon period. Maybe Liz Truss walked onto the stage to accept her nomination, and then almost as soon as she walked off, that was it, honeymoon period over. What a short grace period she's had. But what a monumental rise, and then a very quick fall. Liz Truss was truly indeed the archetypical firework of a politician. A very rapid rise, a big bang, nice lights, but then it fades and it's all over. I think that is how you can sum up maybe Liz Truss's premiership. And the fact that she's been so heavily backed by these right-wing libertarians, I think they're going to fight to keep her. And if they do fight to keep her, then what we really want to do is that all those right-wing libertarians also end up falling with her, because they never ever should be allowed anywhere close to power ever again after this debacle. And of course, as we've said before, all these people who are around Liz Truss, all linked to Brexit, all these financial moves, this is what Brexit was about to many of these people. This mini budget was why we had to do Brexit. And yet, if the market's response to the mini budget was that, well, Brexit well and truly failed. But as always, thank you very much for joining me today on this Sunday stroll. We will see you once again very soon for some more stuff, like I say. Remember to hit the like, share and subscribe button on your way out. Remember to comment down below, always helps with the algorithmical stuff. And we'll see you all very soon for, well, next Saturday hopefully, for another Good Morning Walk.